to kind of get this off, I'd love to hear about your trip.
Yeah, man. I'm back. Feels good to be back on American soil.
So where were you? To let the listeners know, and then I have a bunch of questions. So where were you?
Went to London and yeah, it was great. Had a great time.
End of story. Come on, we got to elaborate here. You went
uh
with your wife. Let's start. Let's start.
yeah. Hazel loves to travel.
And who is Hazel for our first time? For our first time listeners, who is Hazel?
My beautiful wife.
There we go. Hi, Hazel.
We booked a trip to London and it was my first time. That was like I wanted to go there because on my mom's side of the family was English and yeah, just like curiosity. So I know you've been.
I went twice, but I did not get to go where you went, nor did it occur to
Mm,
me, which I started
Oh.
slapping myself when you said,
Yeah.
"Oh, I decided prior to even going on my trip, I booked a place to insert blank here."
I wanted to go for the connection to family heritage, but then I wanted to go to the Kubrick Archive. And that's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And I found out, it's in London and you can go, it's open to the public, but I got to go to London. So, yeah, my wife and I wanted to plan a trip. And I said, hey, how about London? And I can go to the Kubrick Archive.
Oh man, yeah, dude. When in London.
Yeah.
They don't chase clout, they just chase the lore. Dig scenes that the mainstream ignores, where light fights dark in a fabled war. Yeah, the truth gets told when the movie's born. I'm the break in the flicker, the cut in the edit, the blade through the credits, a frame they embedded. Light in the distance, persistence poetic. The dark is a prison, I brighten with aesthetic. No stunt doubles, I tumble through trap fights. The scripts in my soul, I control when my track spikes. Whisper in a reel, I reveal with the black light. The dark is a canvas that I carve with the flashlight. Call it a war cry, a cinematic spark, a puzzle in the shadows, a code of the art. It's Andrew and Greg and the legacy embarks. Our voices ignite and we light up the dark.
And yeah, so we rode the double-decker buses and rode the tube, and we did all the British stuff, and we saw Buckingham Palace. But the very first day that I arrived, the first thing I wanted to get it out of the way, so that we can be tourists for the whole rest of the time. So the morning that I woke up, first morning there, that was when the appointment was booked for the Kubrick Archive.
And like a
So
little schoolboy, you jumped up out of bed, got on those galoshes, and went right on over.
dressed in my Paddington outfit. And yeah, Hazel went to go see a production of Romeo and Juliet at the Globe Theater, Shakespeare's Globe Theater, the original theater. And, it's in Shakespeare in Love. I love that movie. So I wanted to go to that too. But I wanted to go to the Kubrick Archive.
So she didn't go. Sorry, she didn't go with you.
No, we split up. And I went to the Kubrick Archive. She went to see a performance of Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, so I had about 3 hours at the Kubrick Archive. And, before I went, I looked it up. They require you have to send references to the items you want to see. There's a maximum of 10. So, I had to look through the catalog and choose wisely. And I asked you, I think, at the end of the last episode, what you would want to see.
You did. You had to choose wisely, like Dr. Jones over there.
Yes.
Choose wisely. And you did
Yes.
ask me, and I when you realized it was only 10, I said, okay, just go for The Shining. That's all I asked.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. I mean, I pulled based off of your request. I did pull some items that I probably wouldn't have pulled otherwise, but I'm glad I did because the whole experience was just incredible.
So
Um,
talk to me and our listeners just so they know we haven't talked about this. I've wanted
right.
to pick your brain about what you saw. What is it? What when you walk in? What is it? A building? What is the steps like when you go up? What does it smell like? Where do you go in? The procedure. Give us the whole.
It's at a university. I was kind of imagining more of a museum almost, but it's very academic. It's at the University of the Arts in London. So, I got out of my taxi And I went in, and it's just, you check in like you're a visitor at a university. And yeah, I walk down the hall. I walk in, met a very wonderful person working at the Kubrick Archive named Lucy. Shout out to Lucy if she is listening, who works at the Kubrick Archive. She was great. She introduced me, told me the rules. One of the first things was no photography. So I was fully expecting to, send you just a barrage of texts like, look at all of these images.
Yeah, so was I, and that's what I know I can't blame Lucy for that one. I know it's the
Yeah.
rules, but I was very upset when I heard that one.
But that kind of made it more special because I thought I was going to be able to take all these pictures. But then she said no photography. And I thought, okay, so this is just going to be, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to look at this material, and it's just going to be, like a past era,
Did
like
they
just
search you?
with your
Metal
eyes.
detectors? Anything? What would happen when it comes to security? Because on my next trip there, I'm deciding, do I take a wind up plastic camera that has no metal components in it, or can I just come with a fake cell phone and give that over beforehand? Like,
No. The room is an open room, and there's glass, and then there's a whole office on the other side of the glass so they can look in. And there's Kubrick posters, up on the walls. But it looks very academic, very much like a research room, which it actually is. And she asked me when I came in, oh, what kind of research are you working on? And I
and you
said,
said, I'm just a psychopath, and just I'm a super
Yeah.
fan. Let me
Yeah.
buy.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I had pulled some specific items just that I was curious about. Stanley Kubrick's actual notebook for 2001: Space Odyssey. So, that was one of the first items I opened. They give you a cart, like, at a library, research cart, and it's just filled with cardboard boxes, and it's 10 items, but she said, okay, some are single items, but then some is like an entire box that has the item in it, but it also has other materials. So they give you a lot.
Were they his boxes? Like, remember the documentary Boxes, where you lift off the top and he wanted to make sure that there was no suction on the boxes as they lifted off the top. Like, were
Okay.
they his boxes, or were they just like, hey, this is
Probably not.
okay.
That's probably the archive boxes. I think they've just organized it all. So I think they've just gone through it, and now, they have it there. And, I asked for another item. There was actually an item that they forgot. And I said, oh, where's that item? And they said, oh, give us a second. And they just walked, around the corner and just boom, brought it. So it must be incredibly well organized.
So you now know where they keep things. They keep things around that corner. You're gonna have to draw a map to this place, and at night we're gonna go in there.
Yeah, so Lucy told me, one item at a time, and so that nothing gets mixed up. They take it very seriously.
That's good.
Don't mix up boxes. So you take one box off at a time, put it on your table. There was another woman in there when I arrived, and, she had a little station at a desk, and Lucy gave me a little station at another desk. And so
this other woman was also looking through Kubrick material. She wasn't just
she looked
somebody
she looked like a student working on a research paper.
Interesting. So you stood out like a sore thumb.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I have a little tidbit. It actually relates to that. I have an interesting little tidbit at the end that's going to pay off that you're going to love, based on the fact that I stood out. Okay. So I'm going to wrap that up at the end. But yeah, I started going through the boxes, and it was amazing. I think I actually went for The Shining first because you had said, show me Shining. So I was like, okay, let me take a look at that. So the very first thing I opened was the original manuscript of the Shining novel that Stephen King sent to Kubrick, that Kubrick has handwritten all his notes on. So I'm thumbing through and just reading all of Kubrick's little notes and his reactions to all the moments in The Shining, and it all has to do with how he wants to adapt it into a movie. So he'd cross things out. He'd say, move this scene earlier. He'd say, this scene should be outdoors instead of indoors. It was all the little things he wanted to change. Some of it was character notes. Some of it was one thing I thought was interesting. He kept writing Wendy is a strong character. He kept writing that in the notes. And he said, Wendy's strong. She eventually leaves Jack. Like, she has the strength to fight against Jack.
Oh, that's good.
You know, she stayed for all these years. And yes, she puts up with abuse. But the end of this story, the direction it's going is she's a fighter and she's going to survive. She's the one that actually survives at the end. In a way, it's her story. And the ending that you were so interested in, that last scene of The Shining that got cut, is her scene. You know, she's the star of that scene. So it's really her ending.
Right.
And Kubrick removed that and kind of made it feel perhaps a little more on Jack, because then Jack gets that last shot. But in the script, in the original script, which, by the way, is another one of the items I pulled, that was one of the coolest moments. Because you had asked me, you said, I want to know what happens in that last scene. You know, try to get me something on that. So in the catalog online, it says original Shining script with deleted last scene.
Oh, man.
That was one of the coolest moments, because I pulled that cardboard box and I opened up the cardboard box, and just staring at me it says The Shining screenplay. And it's all, you know, duct tape on it, and it looks like it's from 1980. I mean, it looks so old. You immediately could just tell I'm staring at the original script for The Shining.
And you're saying this was the one, this is the script, or this was the script that King sent as the adaptation to Kubrick, and then this had Kubrick's notes in it? I just want to be precise on which one we're speaking about.
No, this is now the actual screenplay.
Okay. So if we're going to move on to the screenplay, I have questions about that, but I have slightly more questions first about you're basically saying the first thing that you saw, or one of the things that you saw that you first started talking about, was the Stephen King adaptation of his novel into a screenplay that went to Kubrick, and then Kubrick had handwritten notes on it, meaning like King wrote this in Maine, obviously. I mean, I can't imagine him being anywhere else, because I only picture him in Maine. And then he sent this to England, and Kubrick read it and wrote notes on it, must have sent it back to King with those notes. Or was these just notes for him?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. The way they were written, actually, okay. Funnily enough.
Yeah, we need to be precise.
Yeah, because I know you're a huge Stephen King fan. So not only is it the nerdgasm of a Kubrick piece of material, but this is the original manuscript for The Shining.
Right.
These were personal notes. It looked like these were notes to Kubrick, to himself, just, you know, to keep markers on how do I want to adapt this into a script and into a movie. The reason I say that is because there were multiple points where Kubrick would write dumb.
Not the greatest type of feedback you'd be wanting to give somebody who wrote a novel and then adapted their thing into someone else. Now, I wouldn't put it past him to be the type of asshole who would actually write dumb and then still send it back to King. But I think if he did, King, like King did with his own novel of Carrie, threw it in the trash. I think he would have thrown this in the fireplace. So I think you're right that this never made it back into the States after that time period.
Kubrick and King, you know, they had some kind of thing. I remember reading a quote from Kubrick that said, "Oh, The Shining was a wonderful novel to adapt into a movie because the prose of the novel are written so blandly that I could just create any style I want for the visuals."
What a dick. I'm sorry. At times, just like such a dick.
So it was like this weird backhanded compliment. I mean, you know, he adapted Clockwork Orange, and the novel's written in this unusual language, and so he's complimenting. And then when it comes to King, he's just
so
this
they backhanded New York compliment. Like, hey, I still want to get it. I still want to get the jabs in here on you, King, because they definitely had a little something, and then Kubrick even put it inside his films. Anyway, sorry. Now that we have that down, I got it. The next thing that you did was you opened up the actual script.
Yeah. Let me just say, there were lots of little notes like that throughout the novel.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Don't jump over that. Sorry.
There was one more note that I thought was interesting at the end of the manuscript. There was a note that said, Wendy is jealous of Danny's relationship with Jack.
Ooh.
That Jack and Danny are very close, and that part of the tension between husband and wife is Wendy's jealousy for the love of the child. And it made me think about the connections between, how they say that there's a undercurrent of child abuse in The Shining. There's this element of like
Big time. Yeah.
Jack and Danny might have a relationship that, we don't know what's going on.
That he picked that up from the manuscript and then maybe decided to go, okay, I'm going to put this in maybe alternative ways into the type of thing. It's interesting saying that's a Shelley was the one kind of picking up on this jealousy factor of her and Jack, because that's not specifically something that you'd see from watching the movie. That's just it's interesting though that was an initial thought.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so the script, right?
Is this the shooting script? Obviously the shooting script, they always, in the documentary, showed the changed pages, this, that, whatever. Like, did they tell you what you were looking at, or was just like, hey, what is this?
This must have been, the one of the first versions of the script, or at least, a middle version, because it had the last scene that was then cut out.
And there was no different color pages or anything like that. It was just the script, all white pages, everything.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I didn't have much time, and I had a lot of material to get through.
Last question. I won't interrupt again. Last question. On the front of it, did it say, written by Stanley Kubrick? Was there, what was the...
Yeah, it was awesome. I don't know. It was The Shining, I think it was co-written by Diane Johnson. So I didn't register that part. It said The Shining in very large letters, almost like handwritten in marker, and it was like this old piece of material. I think it had like hard binding on it. It was so cool. And opened it up immediately because I didn't have much time. Immediately flipped to the back and went for that last scene because I thought, okay, I got to get this out of the way.
You my boy, Blue.
I got to get this out of the way. And then I have a stack I had pulled,
you got to get to 2001. I know there's a lot.
I pulled material for 2001. I pulled material for AI, Eyes Wide Shut. So, and then I had more Shining material as well. I had some photographs, behind the scenes photographs. I wondered if there was a photograph of that last scene, and that because they shot the scene, it was in the movie for really far along.
Yeah, I've seen some online, and in some of the printed books that they have, you can see and then actually filming that scene. You see the lighting of it's the same type of feel of the film. Like I've been dying for them to be able to see that at some point. But
well, the scene is interesting. So I read it, and it's in a hospital. Wendy's in the hospital. And this is, after she escapes and Jack has frozen to death. And it cuts to a hospital. And Mr. Ullman, the
manager of the Overlook Hotel.
The manager. Yes, Mr. Ullman, the manager of the hotel, he walks in the receptionist area. Danny is playing a game of snakes and ladders with the nurse. And Mr. Ullman says hello to Danny, and he walks in to the hospital room, into the bed, and Wendy is there, and she doesn't talk very much. It's a lot of Ullman dialogue, and he says, I just wanted to check on you, make sure you're okay. And he says they checked the hotel, and there was nothing suspicious that they found. It looks like one of those Kubrick moments where it's just like, well, gee, we don't know what happened here,
This is a ghost story. This is this is the true 1950s ending scene ghost story.
Like they swept it all under the rug, it's all disappeared. We're not going to talk about that. And then Ullman says something that I thought was really interesting. He invites Wendy. He says, you and Danny must have been through a lot. Why don't you come stay with me at my home in L.A.? And he actually says L.A. is in the script.
That's weird.
Yeah, come stay with me at my home in L.A. I have a house on the beach. There's more than enough room, and you and Danny will be more than comfortable. And then he just says, I insist. And Wendy doesn't even respond, and he just walks away. So it has kind of that almost like an Eyes Wide Shut style ambiguity where it's like, okay, what does that mean? It's this kind of ominous sort of invitation.
That's weird.
Yeah, and then Mr. Ullman walks out to leave, and he passes Danny, and he says, "Oh, Danny, I forgot to give you something." And he tosses him the tennis ball.
Tennis ball, you fuck. Yes. The only reason I said I saw you say toss and you moved your hand. And I went,
Yes.
oh, you bastard. That's okay. Okay. I see why you cut it. I get it. I get it.
Why do you think?
I mean, that's a terribly boring scene. It's such a letdown to the ending of that movie. It's come stay with me at my place in LA. Like, I mean, go fuck yourself. That's so dumb. That's a first draft. I'm sorry. I see why he shot it and cut it. I don't know. Are you seeing deeper things in that, and have you reminisced about it? Maybe.
It made me just think, okay, just give a little extra hint as to what was Kubrick trying to get at with this story, you know, in an ambiguous ending, a movie that so famously has an ambiguous ending. And what is he trying to say?
Right. And I think without the long dolly into Jack, and if you didn't do that, you just went, he's frozen, and now here's a weird hospital scene, and here's a tennis ball, and then what? Directed by Stanley Kubrick, you'd go like, what? At least with that long dolly, you get something, and it allows you to bring yourself to it. The scene that you're describing here doesn't allow you to really bring anything to it. You're like, so is Wendy gonna go to LA? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it kind of feels like everything in that scene is already communicated throughout the rest of the movie. You know, We know that there's something weird going on. You know, we know Mr. Ullman is this kind of creepy, suspicious figure. We know the tennis ball is weird. We kind of know all this. So
I think that the interesting thing though is like I only think we think about Mr. Ullman being creepy because of that scene. Like if I think about the original film, Mr. Ullman is just this guy who's going, I gotta vet this dude to take care of my hotel while I'm gone, and you never see him again.
Yeah. But then when you start looking into, you know, you watch the Room 237 documentary, and you know, as a viewer, when you start looking into it and you find out,
it could be, it could be,
you know, okay, there's
Kennedy, the whole thing.
There's the impossible window.
Yeah.
You know, and there's
all right. We gotta save some of those aspects for our whole Shining episode. Otherwise, we're gonna go on forever.
So,
all right, so
you know,
I love this, and we have so much more Kubrick to talk about.
Right.
Is there anything more, or did you just at that point close the?
So there you go. Yeah. Then I quickly looked through some Shining photographs to try to see if I could, you know, catch a glimpse of that scene actually being filmed. And there were just too many photographs, so I abandoned that. And I thought, you know what? The time flew by. I mean, you know, I was immersed.
So you didn't say how much time did they give you?
I had 3 hours, and so I arrived a little bit late. I think I had probably 2.5, 2:15. Pretty short.
First of all, how dare you? How dare you? Was that your wife's fault? What happened? What happened? You missed you missed the tube. What happened there?
I'm not gonna throw her under the bus, but that seems to be the
okay. Yeah. All right, we'll leave it at that.
Hazel trying to get ready to go to. Remember, she was on her way to see the theater, so she was getting ready to go to the theater. So we're trying to get out the door, and once I finished the Shining stuff, I was like, okay, let me move on.
Oh, but you jumped over the photographs. So you said you flipped through them quickly. Did you see anything in there that you hadn't seen, or that was? I know you looked at them quick, but just anything?
Just cool. It was just cool to I pulled a lot of written documents, so it was I wanted to have a variety of visuals as well, and I pulled a lot of concept art that we can talk about. But it was just cool to see. I'm holding Stanley Kubrick's actual notebook.
That's fucking nuts.
And, it's his handwriting, and it just feels like, it's pretty cool.
That's so cool.
And then to open up the photographs and then to see him on set and, just quickly glance through and just to, visually just connect. It'd be like, wow, this is cool. Like this guy who directed all these movies, and, here I am, holding his notebook. And by the way, it made me feel a lot better with my own notebooks and my own work, because the greatest movie director of all time, you think he'd have this organized brain, but no, just scribbles everywhere. Just
I love it.
Yeah, just chaos. So it's like I always am self-conscious with my notebooks. I'm like, why can't I write in a more organized way? So now I'll let that go. Cause
now you're you've let loose now. We're last question before the other things. Were the pages all inserted in between plastic, or how are they doing them each page that you kind of flip through in all of this?
Some were, but most weren't. So no, it was really
Wow.
like you're touching the material, it's the
That's
Shining script.
awesome.
You can flip through and yeah, it feels like you're in 1980, reading the Shining script. So yeah, I looked through some material for 2001 that he had, written, just ideas and notes. I pulled some 2001 concept art of the surface of the alien planets that didn't make it into the movie, and just Kubrick and the artist's visualizations of what would these alien planets look like on the surface, during the Stargate sequence.
Did any of them have like specific dates to them where like, hey, this is some of the pre-production that started in
Yeah.
1964 or in like 5, 6, 7, or
They did have dates, yeah. It was around there. Yeah, you'd pull it out and it would say, concept art 1965. And yeah, open it up, and then stuff that they probably couldn't quite capture in 1968, kind of like George Lucas, frustrated about Star Wars. It's like the technology
Right.
just isn't there to visualize what I'm imagining. And so I was curious, what was he imagining that he couldn't get onto the screen? Because I've seen the movies, I can watch the movie anytime I want, but I'm going to the Kubrick Archive. I want to see things that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. There were a lot of, incredible visuals, these just colorful, abstract surfaces of planets that like he tried to capture it through the color tinting that he tried to do with, you could tell they're kind of filming over a mountain range, and then he color tints it with turquoise and orange, so he's trying to capture that alien surface, but the concept art was really cool. And then I also pulled a lot of material for AI as well, and that I also saw concept art for that. So I opened up the biggest box on the cart. I opened it up, and it was just this massive drawing of the entrance to Rouge City.
Which is a giant vagina with a woman's legs open?
Yeah, it's a woman's mouth, with the highway going through.
Oh, I'm sorry. I remembered it incorrectly. I knew it was
Yeah.
very sexual and crazy. Like I've looked at some of the concept art they have online, and it's just like he was trying to make like some sort of fuck city.
Yes, exactly. Incredibly body oriented. It reminded me of, he did that throughout his career, where he would have the bodies almost as furniture. You have Clockwork Orange,
Yeah.
where the bodies are plastic furniture. And then, of course, you have Eyes Wide Shut, where they're like human furniture. And now in the city, done as a cityscape for AI, where one of the, I pulled, so I pulled this large piece of art that was in color. It was incredible. And then there were smaller pieces that were black and white, and it showed alternate designs for that entrance into Rouge City. Some of them were just a giant head with a mouth, but some of them were the full body, where there is an entrance, going in, and there's an exit going out.
When you say going in, you mean through the vaginal cavity?
There were variations. There were variations. There was one that was like,
I just wanted, in case our viewers think I just randomly threw that out there like a psychopath, there were very sexualized aspects to that film.
Yeah, you have essentially the right idea. I think it was like through the mouth and out the other side.
Yeah, the other side.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So, yeah, so that was really cool just to see, because that was one of the projects I was actually, for me, you were most interested in The Shining, but I think for me, it was actually AI. That was the one that kind of captured my imagination, because I just would love the, that kind of alternate future fantasy of like, what if Kubrick got to direct it?
Yeah, you will never know what it was like, and this is as close as you can get to trying to comprehend what his version would be. But the weird part is about that is he abandoned that himself. I mean, he decided to go, I'm not going to do this. So we'll never know, and he won't even ever know, and nor would he even when he was alive. You know what I mean? Like those things die in his head, and as close as you can get is the material that you looked at.
Well, the coolest thing actually that I got out of looking at all the AI material is that I realized there's nothing to, pine about for Kubrick fans, because the material that I saw was exactly like the Steven Spielberg movie.
Wow. Okay. So he tried his best.
Yeah, I think that is the movie. I think that's pretty much the movie that they would have made. And maybe it would have been a little bit different if Kubrick were to personally oversee. But, the original treatment, mostly the same, all the concept art, the visuals, the story, all the structure. And then Kubrick wanted to give it to Spielberg. That was his idea. He said, "You direct this,"
Yeah.
And then Spielberg did direct it. So, Spielberg, he's an auteur.
I think it would have shot it a little bit more different, a little differently, maybe a little bit more. What's the word to say? I don't know. So aspects wouldn't have been as sweeping. I don't think he would have gone for the same type of cinematography. I definitely think it would have had a Kubrick, if he directed it, a different feel to it. Either way, I still think Haley Joel Osment. I'm starting to rant, but either way, Haley Joel Osment in the scene when his mom's trying to give him away in the middle of the woods. I was like a kid watching that, going like, "Oh my God," because there's such a difference between his acting performance throughout that, and then that moment when he breaks, and it's oh my God, and you go, "Whoa." Anyway, I'm done with that rant.
Yeah. I would love to rewatch it because I have a feeling, what with the advancement of AI in the modern day now, it very well could age well, that movie. So I'd like to return to that one.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you, there's actually a difference. The biggest difference that I saw between the material that I was seeing, Kubrick's development of AI, and then the finished film for Spielberg's version. There's the biggest difference in the treatment. I wanted to see the story. I wanted to see what was Kubrick planning for the story. Was he trying to do anything that Spielberg didn't end up doing? What were the differences? And so I pulled the original treatment for AI, and there was one huge difference at the very, very end. Okay, you ready for this?
Yes.
The last scene where David is found by the aliens, he's thawed out of the ice, right? And he's in this.
Well, those are the AI, right? They're not the aliens. They're the future
okay,
AI.
yes. They're like so sorry.
Got it. Just saying.
Right. They're so future AI. They're like
They're
alien,
basically aliens.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. So, he awakes in this future world that's incredibly technologically advanced, and they tell him, "We can bring your mother back for one day," right? Remember that? And he says, "Yes, let's do it." Okay. So mother comes back, and then they tell him at the end of the day, "David, you're not going to be able to see your mother again. This is just one day. And are you sure you want this?" Right? And David says, "Yes, I don't care. I want it anyway." And he's a kid, and the future AI, not the aliens. The AI, they kind of say, "Okay, well, he's a child. He doesn't really understand. We know he's going to be sad later, but let's just give him what he wants." And so they bring the mother back. They spend the day together. They have this wonderful day. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the Spielberg movie ends with them, falling asleep. And it just says, that's the end, right? And
yeah, it's a pullback, and then the voiceover comes in, and David was happier than he's ever been, and then it's fade out, whatever.
Yes, exactly.
At least the way I remember. Again, I haven't watched that in 10 years.
Right.
But
That's the way I remember it too. And the implication is that David got his one day, and that's it, right?
Right. And then I always thought David was going to wake up the next morning next to the dead mother, and or she's not there, and then he has to live out the rest of his battery and whatever the fuck, going, "Where's mom?" And every day he's going to fucking freak out. Or the way that I just thought of it when you said it was, they said he's not knowing what he's asking for. Maybe if mom comes back, then he dies, he expires. So I kind of want to know what you think about that, because I never thought of that aspect of it until you just kind of presented this.
Well, in the original treatment, at that last moment, it says the next morning, David woke up and he was surprised to see his mother wake up next to him. And there's a little narration that says the future AI robots couldn't understand what happened. It must be that the power of love is so strong that it magically kept the mother alive. And now David and the mother get to live on the rest of their lives together.
So Kubrick cut his own ending of The Shining, and Spielberg cut Kubrick's ending of AI.
And I read that, and I thought, it's just like one little line of narration. But I read it, and I thought, oh my God, but that changes the entire story.
It changes everything.
So I that was striking, and it made me want to rewatch the movie again.
It makes me now want to read it. Such advanced intelligence doesn't understand love, but it was programmed into an earlier version of intelligence, like meaning like the ripples throughout the years can lose certain things, and maybe the important things. Like there's a bunch to explore and kind of think about within just that little ending of the mother waking up and them not understanding why. That's
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to think about there. It's going to make our AI episode much deeper.
Now, I will say, just as a caveat to that, that this was one of the treatments to AI.
Right. Okay. I understand.
We don't know later. Maybe Kubrick himself, maybe later,
Cut
said,
it
you know
out.
what? I don't like that. I'm going to change the way that the ending goes. It might have come from Kubrick. We don't know. Okay.
It
But I just thought
probably,
it was
yeah.
striking. It did have a different ending yet again. You know, and like you said, he's kind of known for that.
But it's good. I'm glad you threw that out there as a caveat. Yes. 100%.
Yeah. Because I thought that at the time. I thought, well, you know, just because it's different, it doesn't mean that we should point, you know, the finger at Spielberg. This could have. We don't know how the project develops.
I didn't mean. I'm sorry, Stephen. I did not mean to jump
We
at
don't
you.
know how
I'm just
the project
excited hearing
developed.
things. Because Stephen, yeah, of course, when he's listening to this podcast, he's going to be, no, that's not what happened.
Yeah. Look, 10 items goes fast, by the way. And once you start pulling, I want a notebook, I want a script, I want concept art, I want the treatment to AI. And once it start adding up, and all of a sudden I realized I was at 8, 9, 10 items, and I had to actually cut items out and really prioritize. And so I really wanted to squeeze something in from Eyes Wide Shut. I didn't have very many items, but I was fascinated by the books that he used as research, because there was talk about, you know, what's really going on in Eyes Wide Shut. And some of the books that he was reading informs, you know, what were the ideas that he was thinking about. And there was one book in the research material called Cults and the Occult. And this is a well-known book on dark magic. And this was one of his research books. And so I opened up the book, and Hazel asked me before I went there, she said, but can't you buy that's a book. Why do you want to go to the Kubrick Archive just to see a book? Couldn't you just buy the book? And I looked online, and you can buy the book, but it's quite expensive. I think it's out of print.
So yeah, it's much cheaper to fly to England and you know, have a vacation.
But I thought, you know, if I'm going there, and I didn't want to pull anything like scripts of Eyes Wide Shut or anything. You know, I've read the Frederick Raphael book on the writing of the script to Eyes Wide Shut. I don't know if you've read that.
I had to read Arthur Schitzler's, or I don't know how to say his name. Sorry, the original Dream Story or whatever. Like I've read that.
Yeah, Schnitzler.
Shits. There, however you say it.
So yeah, so I thought, you know what, why not? Let me just take a look at the book, you know, when I'm there in the archive. And so I opened the book. Kubrick had highlighted passages.
Interesting. So he didn't underline or just write in the notes. He specifically used a highlighter. Now, did he use a yellow highlighter, or what type of highlighter? Or was it multicolored highlighter? Oh, he used traditional yellow highlighter. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I see. You wanted details.
I want the details. People are going to want the details. I want them. I know other people are.
He used a single yellow highlighter, yeah. But he highlighted only one type of passage, and it was all the passages that had specifically to do with sex magic, with how to perform sexual rituals to tap into dark forces and access the magic of the supernatural. And that's what he was interested in, you know? What do you think about that?
I mean, he was, yeah, either really doing a lot of research, or like I really feel bad for Christiane Kubrick, because it's one or the other. She's like, honey, why are you trying to bring all these new things into the bedroom? We're in our 70s. Leave me alone.
So it was great. It was so much fun. And the time, like I said, the time ran out super, super quick. Lucy came in as I was looking at the occult book. She came in, she said, okay, you have 10 minutes. And I said, okay. I said, is it okay if I, you know, stay here up till the last minute, like right until, you know, 4:00? And she said, sure, you know, yeah. And I was like, okay, 10 more minutes. And now I'm like, okay, what am I going to do in those last 10 minutes? So I just tried to open another box that I hadn't opened before, and those 10 minutes flew by. And Lucy came back in, and I looked at the clock. It was 4 o'clock, and I was like, I wish I had more time.
Well, she came right back in on the button.
Yep. Yeah, they take it seriously. And there was one box I didn't get to open, which is I pulled the original script to Aryan papers. Yeah, but that was one that I just didn't have the time. I didn't get there, and
that would take you an hour to get through.
Yeah, I mean, right? Because I thought I'm not going to read the entire script, but I was just curious, to again just glance at it, just take a look.
But you didn't even open the top. Like that's a thing between you and me. If I knew I had 1 minute left, I'd at least open the box to take a little peeky. There's just a difference.
Actually, with 10 minutes left, the box I went back to was back to the Shining photographs, because I thought, you know what? Let me see if I could do something for Greg in these last 10 minutes.
Look
and
at you.
Let's
look
see
at you.
if I can find any more information on the Shining, just to anything that jumps out at me.
You gave up Aryan papers for me. Like, that's a friend.
Yeah,
that's a true friend right there.
I looked through some more Shining photographs, and nothing really jumped out at me, and the time just flew by.
Well, the next time I go there, I've learned a few things from you, and I'm going to get a pair of glasses that have a little hidden camera in them. And I'm going to record absolutely everything, and I'm going to have a little, 4K version that goes click, 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 click. I won't share it with anyone else, but besides you.
Yeah, get a whole Mission Impossible setup going on there.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I got up to leave, and I wish I had more time to look through more of the material. I mean, I could have spent more time going through the boxes I had already gone through. I mean, I had to skim through that Shining manuscript. It was interesting. I mean, every little note that he was making there, it was like you got to experience the way he was processing that story in his mind as you go through. And it was long. There were like multiple volumes of it. So I wish I could have just gone through one page at a time, but I didn't have time. So, time to leave, and I get up, and Lucy was so nice, and I felt this kind of connection with her. I chatted with her a little bit. I said, gosh, what an incredible space, and the fact that this exists and people can come here and access this material. And I just asked her, how did you come to work here? And, she just said, she was trained as an archivist and just happened to get a job here. And, she loves Kubrick's work, and she said she was very grateful, that was her job. And I said, well, thank you so much. I wish I could give you a hug or something, and I felt like this personal connection. I said that to her. I said, gosh, I wish I could give you a hug, but I said, I won't, but I just said, thank you so much, for letting me come in and do this. And she could tell that I told her that Kubrick was one of my favorite directors, and she could tell that there was a personal connection with me, that I wasn't there for a research paper or whatever. I came to England, and it was the first thing I wanted to do. And so she looked at me and she said, you know what? Hang on right there. Let me give you something. She goes, I do this for some of the people that come as a parting gift. Hang on one second.
For the audience, Andrew is getting up and he's walking away. He's getting something. I don't know what it could be. I am waiting in bated breath. He's holding something in his hand. I can't see it.
So she goes to her desk and she says, and she grabs a little tub, a little plastic tub, and she holds it up to me and she says, here, take one of these. And it's a bunch of paper clips. And I look down and I think, okay, thanks, I guess. And she goes, these were Stanley Kubrick's paper clips from his office. And so she said, I give these to people if they're really a fan of his work as a parting gift. And there's a ton of them, right? There's 100 in the little tub. And she held it out to me and she goes, pick one. And so here it is.
Oh, that's the weirdest looking paperclip I've ever seen.
It's a little triangular paperclip, probably from the 70s or 80s. I picked a sky blue color because I made a short film called Sky. And so I felt a connection to that. And so I grabbed the sky blue paperclip, and this is Stanley Kubrick's actual paperclip.
What a weird fucking paper. I need to see you immediately. I need to touch the paperclip. I need to I won't hurt the paperclip. You have one of Stanley Kubrick's paperclips. Holy shit, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just keep that on my desk, and what an incredible parting gift. And thank you to Lucy. It was the experience of a lifetime.
That is a freaking phenomenal story.
Yeah, and I'm going to put it right here on my computer so it'll stay there for the rest of the podcast.
Dude, as you stay there for the rest of the time that you sit in front of your computer and you work. It's the weirdest looking paperclip I've ever seen. Have you ever seen a paperclip like that?
No, never. It's this strange triangular paperclip that almost has like an arrowhead in it to catch onto the paper. And it's plastic. And
it looks like a elongated Darth Vader inside of a paperclip. If you hold it at a certain angle and you tilt it a little bit.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
And actually it's just hitting me right now that she handed this to me in the office, and I thought, oh, that's really cool, like Stanley Kubrick's actual paperclip, something that was in his home. And I thought that's cool. And I thought, wow, I was like really happy. I walked out and I was like kind of floating on cloud nine. I thought, wow,
I'd be freaking out.
What a great little parting gift. Yeah, just something small, but just
that was so nice of her.
More than what I thought, like more than what I thought I would get out of it, right? And but it's actually just hitting me right now because, of course, then I fly on the plane and I'm not in London anymore. Now I'm in my apartment at my desk and I'm holding Stanley Kubrick's paperclip, and now it's going to have a home on my desk.
You took a piece of Stanley Kubrick back to New York, which I'm sure he's very upset about. That is wild. I'm sure
I hope he's looking down on us like the Star Child.
It is. Yeah, it is. And I'm sure he probably went through 4,000 types of paper clips until he realized that was the perfect paperclip for what he needed to use the paper clips for.
Yeah. We know that this is an incredibly efficient paperclip. It must be.
This is the most efficient paperclip for the use that he had for it and those other 100 that he was going to use.
Yeah.
Wow.
Something about that paperclip is special.
It is. He's like, this is the paperclip that only clips 2 pieces of paper together. Right. I have a different paperclip when I need to put 3 pieces of paper together.
Oh, that's awesome. So there you go.
Leon, where are my paperclips? Get me my paperclips. I want the blue sky colored paperclips. You were giving me too many red paperclips, Leon.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Dude, that's a fantastic story. Yeah. That is an experience.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And that was just day 1. So yeah, it was great. It was great.
All right. On to day 2. No, I'm good.
I'm the break in the flicker, the cut in the edit, the blade through the credits, a frame they embedded, light in the distance, persistence poetic, the dark is a prison, I brighten with aesthetic, no stunt doubles, I tumble through trap fights, the scripts in my soul, I control when my track spikes, whisper in a reel, I reveal with the black light, the dark is a canvas that I carve with the flashlight, call it a war cry, a cinematic spark, a puzzle in the shadows, a code of the art, it's Andrew and Greg and the legacy embarks. Our voices ignite and we light up the dark.
Yeah, we rode the London Eye. We went up. We saw London from above. Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. We took a week off. How was your week off? Did you miss me?
Of course I missed you. Look at me, darling. Of course I missed you.
Yeah. How was your week off?
No, it's good. Just worked. It's never going to top your story, so I'm not even going into it. We're just my week was my week. I worked, kept things going. I was waiting for you to get back to hear about the Stanley Kubrick story. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it's been something I've been wanting to do. I mean, so yeah, really, really cool. Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. I think it actually did give me some takeaways, like genuinely. Like I'm serious when I say that, with my own work, I kind of get self-conscious. Like I kind of tend to judge myself, and, we're like that in our minds. And, sometimes, honestly, the messiness of my notebook, I'll look at it and think, gosh, these notes are just kind of disorganized. Like I should try to, sort of, categorize. And so I'll kind of hinder myself like that. Like I won't just let it flow freely. But then to see Kubrick's notebook just messy, and it diagonal and just notes all over the place, just, looks like the ravings of a lunatic. And it made me feel better. And I thought, okay, you know what? Let me try to let some things go in life. I think I'm learning that. So, it was cool. There were a few little like lessons, and I don't know, just, I kind of felt like actually, like the scene in Complete Unknown, where Dylan goes to see Woody Guthrie and he says, you know, maybe I'll catch a spark. It was like one of those things. It was like just being
That's
there, just
cool.
feeling the energy of like, these are Stanley Kubrick's materials. It's that he held this in his hand, you know, and just feeling the connection and, you know, now coming home. And I don't know, it's just kind of cool. It like gives me a nice energy.
That's so good. Did you get a feeling in a sense that Kubrick would be sitting there going like, if there was some way he could see you looking through his shit, would he be sitting there going like, motherfucker, Christiane, why the hell did you give all my shit to this fucking place? I don't want anyone to see my little notes. I mean, obviously he kept them all, you know, decades after for some reason, and he didn't just throw them in a you know, an incinerator. He was obviously keeping them in like his barn or whatever the fuck. And then, you know, obviously he's passing. Nobody expects themselves just to die, and he didn't have a long, prolonged death where he could be like, make sure, Leon, to destroy all of my things and do them out in the back at the veranda. We're over there. Why he speaks like this, I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, he obviously kept all of his things throughout his working life, decades after he was done with them. He didn't give them away to a college, but he stored them.
Yeah.
Not really releasing them. And then after his passing, you know, his wife decided to say, hey, I'd like to do these things. She knows better than anybody. But did you have the feeling that he would be like, why is this happening? Or did you feel that he would go, oh, I like that weird, nerdy people come here to still look at my things?
I think that the mysteries inside of Kubrick movies are so big that it doesn't matter if you can see his material. It just adds to the myth and to the legend. It just adds to the fun of trying to figure out his movies. You know, the fact that I can go and read the treatment to AI and I can look at the original Shining script and we can say, oh, he cut that scene out. Why did he do that? That's not some kind of grand key that tells you all the secrets and all the answers. That's just another piece to the puzzle. And so it just adds to it. It's incredible that there is such a thing as the Kubrick Archive and that people can go there and that they did preserve his material. And I actually said that to Lucy. One of the things during our chat was I said, you know, how many movie directors get this kind of treatment, you know, where they do save all the material? Because we know there's something so special about this guy, this particular mind. You know, he thought differently, and we want to preserve the way he thought, and we want to try to understand it. And so they created the Kubrick Archive. And yeah, what an incredible experience for Kubrick fans and, you know, anybody that wants to go there. So yeah, it's awesome. So no, I don't think it spoils anything or anything like that. I think it's
But
just,
do you think that he's looking down and he would, if there was a way he could be looking down, he'd be like, no, stop looking through my shit? Or is he like, oh, I like it?
I'm assuming that wherever the spirit of Stanley Kubrick is right now, he's, you know, beyond the infinite. He's somewhere where it doesn't matter to him, you know?
He's beyond the infinite. If he could be there, though, he'd definitely be criticizing the pages that you looked at and goes, no, you missed the page before that. That's not the order in which you should be turning. Look at this page.
Yeah.
Where's my paper clips?
Yeah. Maybe he's like Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar. He's trying to push me to look at a certain page to get a certain
Did
message.
you see any books fall off the bookshelf while you were there? That's awesome, though. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it was great. I would highly recommend. I mean, dude, as a Kubrick fan, if you know, the next time you go to London, it's actually quite easy. Book an appointment and you look through the reference material. You know, I had things. I'm glad I asked you because it kind of filled out my 10 items. But there were a few things that I was interested in. Oh, AI, you know, I'm interested in that. So let me pull some AI stuff. So whatever your interest is, wherever your mind is going, you can look through the catalog, and I would highly recommend it. It's awesome.
Oh, man. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, when you're in London.
When in London.
Yeah. Yeah.